We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
Got a busy lineup for a half-hour program tonight here on Depraved and Debaucherous. This is King of Podcasts. Thanks for listening in and finding the show, kingofpodcasts.com. And, of course, on YouTube, you can find it in audio form. And, of course, you watch it on there. It's still going to be in audio form, but it's at King of Podcasts. All the previous episodes are up there on both sites. So go ahead and browse around. And if you want to, go back to the archives and look back to September of last year, specifically September 5th, when I did an episode where we talked about the brick lady. You remember her? Ro Bash, right? Well, apparently the young lady that we had talked about, that, let me just go real quickly go back and give you what the story was. So, Houston, Texas. She went on Instagram and recounted the ordeal of being physically assaulted. And there were 5 other guys in the vicinity of the incident that could have, supposedly she said, would have helped her. But they said that she had a brick that was thrown at her face. And she was left with a mark left on her face. And she was in the hospital as a result of it. So we went through that story. So let's go and scroll all the way to now. Well, apparently, she set up a GoFundMe page. And it was titled Help Rhoda Recover. And she chose to go ahead and say, okay, well, you know what? She decided to go and scam those that were on here and bought into the whole idea. So here's what we got. Originally, what the story was done and talked about, the Harris County District Attorney's Office talked to NBC News and said that Ro Osman was hit in the face, said she was hit in the face with a brick by an unknown man. She would not share her phone number with him. So then she said she got into a car she thought was an Uber, and the driver tried to kidnap her, the report stated. And then she said the driver tried to hit her. And weeks later, the detective who wrote an affidavit for the district attorney's office reviewed local surveillance footage of the moments leading up to the incident, and Osman was spotted with a friend, and the man she later identified as the person who hit her. They got into a car together and exited the car. And the detective said the footage showed Osman slapping the man, then he hit her back with a water ball in his hand. But it was mutual combat, as they reported. So now, apparently, she has been charged for theft of GoFundMe money. All right? Let's go into the story real quick. I'm going to go ahead and play it real quick here. You can hear it for yourself. Check it out.
I'm in Jamaica! And this is such a big deal because this is what I'm talking about when I say I'm taking my life back brick by brick. Pun intended. Because 4 months ago when this incident happened, I was afraid to check my mailbox. I didn't think that I could ever go out by myself. And as a woman that has been on her own since she was 16 and has traveled over 20 countries and most of them by herself, that was just so depressing. But here I am on a solo trip that I decided 5 days ago that I was going to go on, and I'm here and I feel protected, divinely protected, and I wish that for all black women across the diaspora, because black women, we created this world. We deserve to explore it. We deserve to enjoy it. We deserve to see it. And this is just a big deal. Like,
we're not going to play any more of that. But anyway, so she went and took some of the money that she used to scam, said people out of the GoFundMe account, and basically decided to go ahead and, we're going to go ahead and go to Jamaica. A 5-day notice. Not much explanation as to why she went ahead and took the money like she did, but there's the issue we have right there. And it's happened. So now people want to go and find out what was going on with this. Why is it she did this to everybody? And it's happened. Of course, not a lot of press about it. That's okay. She doesn't want to talk about it, and nobody else is going to bring it up either. They're just going to this is all being put by the wayside. Right? Like, you see a lot of stories that were put out when the first attack came across. Nobody's going to fall back up on it. Of course not. Of course not. Brickgate, they called it. So they went off on that, and then nothing else ever since. Right? Nothing else ever since. But here's what we got. Okay? Of course, no one is talking at all what's going on to what happened here. But she posted a $10,000 bond in Harris County Court because she collected more than $40,000 through a GoFundMe for an alleged false claim she was hit in the head with a brick. So there you go. You have it. She did it. Now, she says she's going to seek legal counsel over all this as well. And Osman is scheduled to appear back in court on March 5th. We're not going to go back to this afterwards. We're just going to say, yeah, everything that was being thought about, was this true and what this really caused? Well, we're not hearing a whole lot of people talk about it. But back in September, man, it was the talk on TikTok. It was the talk on everywhere. Social media was a buzz. But we don't hear anything about this now. Nothing at all. So it is done. Now, here's what she says in her own defense. She says that, first of all, I'm not on the run, quote, everyone was trying to extort me for money. I'm trying to find a proper lawyer to surrender with. I look forward to my day in court to fight this bullshit. These bullshit claims and retribution from Officer Thornton for reporting her for misconduct. Again, I look forward to my day in court. And then she says, but Olan Douglas, who is the accused attacker in this physical argument, says that he harmed me, social media harmed me, blogs harmed me, Houston Police Department has harmed me, I've been abused and re-victimized, and now I'm being held to a level of scrubby that is dangerous to all. So people are still not wanting to figure out. Bossip actually wrote about this story, and there's a few places that are picking up on this story, but, nobody wants to pick up after the fact, right? Nobody wants to go into that part. But she did surrender, nevertheless. She did do that. So surprise, surprise, it's all done, and that's all said and done. Right? That's it. Brickgate. So this program thought it was fitting to make sure to go ahead and give context. Listen, we followed the story to its end. Now she's being charged. She had to go ahead and, go to court. Now she's going to go ahead and defend her case. She's going to find her legal counsel and try to keep herself a while of being pulled out of jail because of theft. We'll see. Listen, and if she gets convicted, we'll talk about it because it'll probably pop up somewhere. Just saying. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. We'll move along into money in the middle because there's so much of that right now. And so many stories we hear about where we're getting a lot of stories that are coming out saying that women are able to go ahead and get doing nothing for the money they're getting. Like money's in the middle of the date, relationship, hookup, whatever it is, but they're not doing anything for it. And we're getting a lot of those stories right now at the start of the year to put that narrative out there. Okay. So one lady talks about that she met her now fiance at a hotel bar and told him that her kitty cost $1,000 and that the guy apparently is going to marry her. Right? So let's go and go to this story and let's hear from this young lady.
Ready with me as I tell you guys how I met my fiance. Disclaimer, if you're against selling that cat and putting a price on your kitty, I suggest you exit because over here, we got a price, baby. Okay? I am just doing the final touches on my makeup because honestly, I filmed this video and then I was like, oh, let me film it again. People come on my comments all the time and they're like, be honest, you were out selling that cat and that's how you met him. And I was. Because I have no shame in having a price on my kitty cat. So I met my now fiance at one of my favorite hotel bars that I used to go to in Boston. I was actually waiting for my friend because she and I were gonna go a little bar hopping. So as soon as I walked in and sat down, I think I was sitting down for probably like 2 minutes. He walks in with his guy friend. Immediately they walk up to me. First thing he said was, can I buy you a drink? Take notes, ladies. That is how a gentleman approaches a woman sitting at the bar. He didn't ask me my name. He didn't ask me what I did for a living. He didn't ask any of those things. He just asked me what I wanted to drink. And the bartender was making our drinks. I excused myself to the ladies' room and I wanted him to see my legs because my legs were out and I was looking good, okay? And when I came back, the sitting arrangements had changed because originally his friend was sitting next to me and he was sitting on the other side to his friend. And when I came back from the bathroom, him and his friend had exchanged seats. So I obviously caught game because I'm like, okay, so obviously he really likes me, which is fine because he was the one that was swiping the card. Then at this point, my friend walks in, he offers to buy my friend a drink and, we're hanging out, we're getting to know each other, and at the end of the night, he asks me if I want to come back to his place. And obviously I told him it was going to cost him, because I'm sorry, you just met me. So if you're going to assume I'm going to be a hoe that gets paid. I'm not a free house. And he told me that, that wasn't something that he does, and he doesn't carry, that amount of cash on him. But he then proceeds to tell me that he would still like to get to know me and take me out to dinner one day. Most men are threatened by women that have a price on their kitty. So I was actually surprised to hear him say he would still like to take me out to dinner, even though I turned him down or told him that it was going to cost him some coins if I was to go home with him. But
All right, we're going to stop right there. Look, I mean, the hotel bar isn't the place to go ahead and meet a girl that you're going to go and hook up with in a, dating anytime extensively or relationship. No. Hotel bar. All right. So she's here with her friend. Her intention is to find a guy, could be a sugar daddy, just could be a guy that's just has some money to go and spend, and sees her. And I mean, look, so the guy turns it around and says, no, I'm not the kind of guy that pays like that. I don't do that. But she did set a price. She did offer. And by the way, if the guy said, yeah, let's go upstairs. So she's telling us that she's not going to go ahead and charge the guy $1,000, ask for the money up front, and then go upstairs with him. See, this is the part where, like, first of all, as a fiance, it doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, fiance, they're not getting married. And if they do, it's a major mistake. She's very materialistic. I understand that. She's big on her makeup, big on her accessories. Like, you see the closet she's in. She's got a large walk-in closet. So something kind of clueless, right? So she is putting herself out there to, like, be said, okay, well, she wanted to make sure. She puts this idea on all these guys out here. Listen, she's high price. She's high maintenance. And again, she felt good about, like, going to the bathroom and making sure she showed herself off to make sure he saw the whole fit when she came back. But this guy, I mean, he wants to go and maybe, hook up with her a few times, have, couple of times to, screw around. That's probably all he wants. He probably just wants to go ahead and be fuck friends. That's it. But other than that, nothing else. So this young lady, listen, you want to go enjoy the money you're going to get from the guy, and, it's going to, for a very short while, supplement a little bit, of your lifestyle. Okay, but that's all you're getting from that. And she thinks this is a good idea to go ahead and let people know this is where she got this from. Like, okay. And the comments that came out about it on Instagram, this is why, by the way, from the Neighborhood Talk. And one lady comes on here and says, I miss LMAO. I miss when prostitution was damn near private. Now y'all glamorize it. Insanity. And then another lady, first red flag, why would you leave your drink with a stranger? And then there are a lot of comments after she said the part about, being prostitute. And some of those comments were all saying is like, okay, someone says, tap in all banks. Another one, inflation is somewhat to blame. It's going to get worse, sadly. Another one, exactly, glamorizing prostitution. Another one, it's embarrassing. I don't care how she's tried to fantasize it. It also speaks to the quality of the man, pay for Kitty, and her character, because the next highest trash man with money, she's going out just like a tramp. And another one, girl, yes, it's like these young adults glorifying selling your kitty instead of getting a job. It's too dangerous and it's too not cute at all to have that, and then they don't have no shame. And more prostituting for free. Might as well get your coins. Damn, a free fuck, because these bills and women's maintenance rolls around regularly. And another one says, girl, if you don't get out of my head, I just told my mom the same thing I told her. This adult life is ghetto and I don't like it here. I told her I don't want to do a podcast and talk about some of these topics. Oh, I want to do a podcast. All right. Another one says, because she's not a real prostitute. She's a real social media influencer. That's the problem. The real hoes still here. They don't do all this internet stuff. Correct. So she's saying this thinking that she's going to get something out and she's going to make this point across, but she's not. Now, her name on TikTok is KUW Coco_, if you're looking to go ahead and find out that video. But that's another thing I just saw. Caught my attention. Thought she can go ahead and go away with that. But all right. More than anything. Now I'm going to take my time here to get into my own personal past. When money has been in the middle of any dating or relationship. Now, there was a young girl I remember meeting. I first met her. I want to say she was probably early 20s. Blonde. Beautiful girl. Now, a thicker girl. My preference. And when I met her, I'm trying to think where it was that I met her at. I think it was, you know what? I think it was one of the chat lines. I think it was one of those chat phone numbers, Tingle Personal, something like that. I think it was where it was. And I met with her. And all we did was meet up at like a restaurant. I think it was like a Denny's, something like that. And I remember that day, it was raining pretty bad. But I remember we got together and she was dressed real cute. And she was staying with her sister, she said. And we got along. And I remember that, you know, she was like really, her cleavage was very heaving, right? Her breasts were very big. You know, D cups, maybe E's. And I just remember we were talking, everything was like going off really well. And she thought I was attractive. And we were getting along great. And actually, you know, before I left, I remember I was outside with her and I was making out with her. I was actually getting to kiss her for a little bit. But then there was like a big lightning strike that happened. I was like, all right, we gotta go because the weather was getting bad. And then I would try to talk to her, but what I realized she didn't tell me was she actually had a boyfriend. And the reason she was talking to me in the first place is because she was into bigger guys. And she was into feeding guys, making them fatter. And I saw the guy she was with, and the guy was bigger than me. But the one thing I didn't realize was she was with him because he was spending a lot of money on her. Because I really didn't realize, I mean, she wore a leather jacket. She was wearing, you know, like her nails done, hair was very well done. You could tell she was being maintained. This guy was doing it. But also, she didn't mind fooling around. So she was going to use me as a, you know, I didn't realize until later that she wanted to go and like just see if I would be another guy she can go ahead and, you know, use for her high maintenance. Another guy she can go ahead and just kind of fool around with. She wanted to keep friends with me. So she friend zoned me. And I was like, well, you know, I wanted to go out with you. Like, if you're not happy with your guy, you know, she ended up moving in with a guy, you know, to supplement her habit. And my thing was when we talked on the phone every once in a while, I was like, but I want to go out with you. Like, I want to go out in a relationship with you. Like, that's what I want. But, you know, as long as you're with your guy, I'm not looking to be friends. She couldn't get that. She couldn't help herself. And then she got upset because we wouldn't talk. She wasn't being friends with me. And I remember I was working, down in Fort Lauderdale. And I remember one day I was just yelling at her because I was just like, I wanted to get her off my back. Because I was like, you're not going to give me the time of day. I don't want to be friend zoned. And I don't know any other way to say it. So I was just kind of like just giving her the hard time. And for years we didn't talk. Right? I made it my point. I'm not going to go ahead and do anything more with you because you're living with a guy. And I believe she said the guy was her fiance. Like, well, why are you talking to me? You know? I then ran into her. I want to say, 6 years later? Maybe more, maybe about 6 or 7 years later. And because there was an event that was going on here in South Florida where it was like big handsome men BBW parties. So there was a regular monthly event that went on down in Hollywood, south of Fort Lauderdale, south of the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. And there were a couple of spots that would normally have the events at. I remember going to one of them. I saw it on Facebook. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to this because there were some of the girls that I saw there that I was attracted to. And I was like, well, maybe I'll find someone I'll like. I ran into her. I didn't recognize her. She had gained some weight, but she still looked very attractive. She was wearing something very sheer and gold. And I didn't recognize the guy she was with. But like, I guess they go to these parties pretty regularly. And I didn't say anything to her, but I noticed, okay, there's something about her, it's like she got my attention again, but it's not the same girl anymore. Like at least about, I want to say, maybe about a good 100 pounds heavier than before, but still attractive. Like I was still like, the way she looked great. Well, then what happened was that I didn't talk to her. I really didn't talk to anyone at that party. Like it was just like, I was just getting over there and I didn't know anyone else. And I went there a couple of times during like holidays. I remember I went there for like a Valentine's Day event, for a St. Patrick's Day event. And there was one time when everybody was closing it out, when the event closed out. And then she came up to me and she's like, you don't remember, do you? And then like I had to go through and I realized it was her. I didn't recognize her. And then I told her, I don't know why. I told her I was so sorry about being a jerk to her the last time I talked to her. She forgave me. And then we started talking after that. She was still with this guy. And then she eventually moved out. And then she found her own place. And then every once in a while, she called me talking about we should go and get together. I was skeptical because I figured, you know what? She's trying to get me to be the replacement for this guy. Because she had told me all about what this guy was to her. About how much he supported her. Now, she had a good job at the time. And, the one thing with her was she was working overnights. I remember that part. I'm not going to say more about that. But I remember we talked. And I never really moved forward with her about getting together. And then something happened where she got into an accident. Something serious. And, out of commission for like a year. I'm not sure what it all was, but all I know is that she was basically like, whatever happened to her, like she had no help from this guy that she was, was her fiance at one point. He moved on to another girlfriend. Like, so she's not even in the picture anymore. And whatever money that she had or whatever stuff that she had, she like lost everything. She was basically broke and homeless. And the last time I saw her was at a Wawa that's over here by the airport in Palm Beach. And I couldn't recognize her. She still, you could see some of the parts about her that was still the same, but, she was living in her car and things were not going well. And that's the last I saw of her. And I'll just tell you, like, it's one of those things where, the first time I met her, man, in a heartbeat, she was, smart, funny, beautiful, cool, hang out with, just, sociable. She was just a butterfly. And just the money that she wanted. Like there was, and by the way, she still worked at this one job. It was a good government job, by the way. I'll say that. It was a good government job. And she was making good money. But then once things went downhill, she lost the guy. Her health went downhill because something had happened to her. Because she was bedridden in the hospital for a long time. I didn't even know about it until after. And family wasn't helping her out. She was on her own. But money got in the middle of what she wanted in relationships and what she wanted in her life. She was more concerned about what she wanted. And the last I saw her, she's not even the same person. I'm like, what a beautiful girl. Everything just fell all apart. I don't even know where she is now. I might be able to find her on Facebook and like see where she is. But if I went through and I talked about all the things that we went through and talked about in the time I talked with her, like, wow, there was like so much there. But, I hadn't seen her in forever. And I couldn't tell you what's been going on with her in a long time. But like, I haven't talked to her since the pandemic, actually. And I'll tell you like this. So we'll go back to the messages a long time ago. And I remember actually she was talking about like there was still these parties to go to. And she was still talking about like, let's go meet up over there. Right. But now the messages with her, they go back. Oh, this might be going a little bit longer tonight. Let's just go to this. Okay. And I might have to go through more of this anyway, because there's a lot to it. But just the beginning, right? I'm going back to 2012 when I talked to her. And one of the things she did drink quite a bit. But let me go through a little bit what I have here in terms of what she told me about. So I remember, okay, here we go. Going back to February 13th, 2012. Oh, this is after the party when I ran into her again. So when I met her was like, must have been like 2004, 2005. So a long time ago. And then I told her it was awesome running into you Saturday. Let's catch up. You should have my card. Take care. Because I gave her my business card. And I said, promise not to be mean. I said, never again, I swear. And, you know, she tells me about that she stayed with her fiance and that all the issues got ironed out. And then she asked about me. And I told her that you're still a head turner. And she says, that's nice to hear, considering the extra weight I packed on since I've seen you last. And I told her about, going out, working for my job and all this. And, she was even asking me, like, were there any names of, like, any of the girls that I met at the party that I would have liked to talk to that she could set me up with, which was nice. And then we move along. And again, she was just trying to recommend me certain people to talk to. And she talked about like trying to do things right now where she wanted to go ahead and, make some changes for herself, some self-improvement. That's fine. And we went on and talked for a long time, but there's more to it. But like I said, I'll get into all that more enough anyway, because it was just a lot of like talking anyway. And it was really at the time where she was still with the guy. And then she was going to like, oh, well, let's go and like, set me up with somebody. So, I mean, there really wasn't anything there. We never really did anything at all, but we did talk in 2012. We talked quite a bit. And when I'm trying to go through and see what she goes for next, we go into 2014 and then we talk every once in a while about the parties, right? And then, yes, she had her back injury. That's what it was. And that was one of the things that came up. Now, and that was one of the things too, was like, I think she did talk up to me about like meeting up and like basically just wanted me for sex, just to come on over, but I didn't go along with it. So I didn't bother with that, She called me handsome. She had called me honey bunny at one point. And, there was a point then a couple of years later, she got her own apartment and, we talked. And then just sometimes she just trying to find a way for like me to get together, but it was always like some kind of a hookup. There's one time she dropped the line and said, hey, you want to disappear with me in Orlando at Universal for a couple of days? But see, like I said, okay, so what? Am I going to have sex? But then I'm going to have to be spending all the money with her. And like, I haven't seen her in 4 or 5 years. And, things just all changed. I was like, it is what it is. There's more to it. And I'll tell you, it's like, it was all a different story. I don't know. Shame. Okay, a couple of the stories I want to bring up before we wrap things up. Market Watch put out a story. The story is, my Tinder match asked if I rent or own my apartment. Is it gauche to ask for financial questions before a first date? So Q&A here. This is the advice call. To the moneyest. And what they said was, what the moneyest told this writer was, he's not your real estate agent or financial advisor, so I agree it's strange for a virtual stranger to quiz you on your living arrangements. But it's important for him that you have the same level of financial security that he does. If it were not an issue for him, he would not have asked. Simple as that. Whether or not people are comfortable with such questions in the first call is immaterial. If you're not comfortable, you have your answer. You are, after all, the person you will have to date him and expect him to show a semblance of emotional intelligence and sensitivity. It's imperative to be able to read the room. But if he's asking you a question about your real estate holdings or finances, he's interested in them as a way of assessing or judging your suitability as a partner. Maybe he romanticizes his relationship aspects based on first impressions and wonders whether he could combine assets and live in splendor, but words and questions have meaning. There's more to it. So there's that part. Sugar dating now going international. This is a story came out from a website called Japan Today. That yes, the lucrative practice of sugar dating goes international. In Tokyo, Japan is becoming recognized for its omotenashi, hospitality. The country harbors a strong image of lechery. Sex workers enjoy great popularity with the depreciation of the yen currency and slumping economic conditions, and more Japanese women have been going abroad to work. Some girls are paying off debts they incurred from patronizing host clubs. In any event, their ages have become younger, and it's not unusual to see some of them in their late teens. Proprietors of the sex business have been Chinese. So, one girl says to repatriate her earnings, a friend of mine who worked here in New Zealand was introduced to her by her Chinese boss to an underground banking network. And a 19-year-old related her experience of taking part in orgies on the upper floor of a luxury hotel in Bangkok with 4 European customers. And this young lady said that there were 5 of us Japanese, all engaged in kimesaku, sex while under the influence of drugs. And she was paid 2 million yen for 4 days of work. Wow. Another lady talked about in Dubai, I took on 6 Arab men, received 1.5 million yen for one night. It's like all this is going on. Like, here we go. The money in the middle of like just to, make a lifestyle. And as we talked about the other story from Your Tango about how a lady kept the sugar daddy without trading favors, talks about that they met up. He gave me the royal treatment, bought me all my drinks, took me from one party to the next, made me feel like the most desirable woman in any room. Extremely refreshing, especially since I was recovering from a breakup with a guy I fell hard for. She says he was interested in me and knew being intimate was on his mind. He would be flirtatious, a little handsy with me, but at the end of the day, I would always take care to let him know that I wasn't looking for anything like that. The more he took me out, the more I started to feel guilty about not giving him anything in return. He never blatantly made any demands. He certainly insinuated by buying me personal toys and asking me if I wanted to be part of lingerie fellowships. Nothing creepy, she called it, but no overt. But she declined all his offers. So that her deal is that she was able to deny anything he ever asked for, and she could just go on and do what she wanted. That's the idea. One more story for folks out there. For all you passport bros looking to go to Colombia, let's just say there's been work now that the U.S. Embassy in Bogota is advising Americans to put the dating apps away if they plan to go and visit Medellin, because there have been a number of suspicious deaths. Embassy officials say there have been 8 such deaths involving U.S. citizens between November 1st and December 31st of last year. Numerous U.S. citizens have been drugged, robbed, and even killed by the Colombian dates, according to the embassy. And the embassy has seen an increase in reports of incidents involving the use of online dating apps to lure victims, typically foreigners, for robbery by force or using sedatives to drug and rob individuals. So keep an eye out about going to Colombia. Might not be a good idea. That's where we're getting out from there. All the passport bros might need to look at, right? So if that's the case, then maybe you need to look at some other places to go, just in case, right? Because you never know what you're going to find out there and what could really start something up. Maybe you would need to go to the Dominican Republic or Philippines or, Thailand or any other country, maybe Costa Rica. Because in all those, you can get a little depraved and debaucherous.